Our Torah reading for this Yom Kippur comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 23. Hine anochi sholeach malach lefanecha lishmarcha badarech ulehaviacha el hamakom asher hachinoti hashamer mipanav ushma bekolo al tamer bo ki lo yisa lefish achem ki shemi bekirbo כי אם שמוע תשמע בקולו ועשית כל אשר אדבר ואויבתי את אויביך וצרתי את צרריך כי ילך מלאכי לפניך ולהביאך אל האמורי והחיתי והפריזי והכנעני והחיבי והיבוסי ולהיכדתם. לא תשתחווה לאלוהיהם ולא תעבדם ולא תעשה כמעשיהם, כי הרס תהרסם ותשבר מצבותיהם, ועבדתם את יהוה אלוהיהם, וברך את לחמך ואת מימיך, הסירתי מחלה מקרבך. לא תהיה מכשלה ועקרה בארצך, את מספר ימיך אמלא, את אימתי אשלח לפניך, והמותי את כל העם אשר תבוא בהם, ונתתי את כל אויביך עליך עורף. ושלחתי את התרעה לפניך, וגירשה את החיבי, את הכנעני ואת החיבי מלפניך. לא אגרשנו מפניך בשנה אחת, פן תהיה הארץ שממה ורבה עליך חיית השדה. מעט מעט אגרשנו מפניך עד אשר תפרה ונחלת את הארץ. ושתי את גבולך מים סוף ועד ים הפלישתים וממדבר עד הנהר, כי אתן בידיכם את יושבי הארץ. וגרשתמו לפניך לא תכרות להם ולאלוהיהם ברית. לא ישבו בארצך, פן יחתיו אותך לי, כי תעבוד את אלוהיהם, כי יהיה לך למוקש. Exodus chapter 23. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you by the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Pay attention to this angel and listen to his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your disobedience, for my name is in him. But if you indeed listen to his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel shall go before you and bring you into the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor follow their practices, but you shall utterly overthrow them and demolish their altars. You shall serve Yahweh your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. No one will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror before you, and will confuse all the people to whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. I will send the hornet before you, which will drive out the Hittite, the Canaanite, and the Hivite from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the animals of the field multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you, until you have increased and inherit the land. I will set your border from the Red Sea even to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare for you. Earlier this calendar month, I actually agreed with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A great miracle happened there. Every Rosh Hashanah, large numbers of Hasidim travel to Uman, a city in Ukraine, to visit the grave of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. It's a cross between a religious pilgrimage and yeshiva students gone wild. This year, with the ongoing war in Ukraine, Netanyahu advised them not to go. He noted that there are only 11,000 air raid shelter spaces in Uman, not enough for the tens of thousands of visitors expected. Netanyahu said, "God did not always protect us, including in Europe and on the soil of Ukraine. In the state of Israel, when rockets fall, civilians go into shelters and there are protections. There are no shelters and no protections." The hummus hit the fan. Ultra-Orthodox parties like Shas and United Torah Judaism were outraged. I said, Bibi Netanyahu is right. Pray if you want, but get into the bomb shelter. Netanyahu's religious coalition partners were outraged because they believe divine protection is and has always been the only reason Jews have survived. And they point to passages like this one from Exodus in the Torah. With God as an enemy to your enemies, who needs an army? With God as your ally, why tolerate your neighbor when you can destroy their shrines, take their land, and drive them out before you? It is your promised land, and no legal entanglements or pesky rights can get in your way. The problems between Israelis and Palestinians do not go back to the election of the current Israeli government, nor to the 1993 Oslo Peace Accords, nor to the 1987 First Intifada, not to the 1967 Six-Day War and conquest of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, not to 1948 and the Israeli War of Independence alongside the Palestinian Nakba or catastrophe, does not go back to the beginnings of the Zionist movement of the 1880s, nor even 1,400 years back to the Muslim conquest of the Middle East in the 7th century CE. The problems go back to passages and ideologies like this. Settlers, in fact, call themselves in Hebrew mitnachalim. The root nachal in Hebrew means to inherit, and this passage says, nachalta, you will inherit the land. That is their claim. They are heirs to the divine promise. This passage itself speaks of inheriting the land. What the Uman episode a few weeks ago demonstrates is that there are many Israels. The deputy speaker of the Knesset, Rabbi Israel Eichler of United Torah Judaism, rebuked Netanyahu for his heresy. This is what he said. The Germans were stopped on their way to conquer the land of Israel by great miracles, not by the Zionists. The Zionists and the partisans did not prevent the Holocaust in Europe. Those who blame the God of Israel for your failures and crimes should be silent. If it weren't for those who respect the Torah, Israel would long ago have been wiped off the map of the Middle East. Yet Netanyahu said what he said. And it was actually the World Zionist Organization in 1944 that saved the lead Rebbe of Eichler's Belz Hasidic sect from Hungary. They got the Rebbe to then Palestine and safety. In response to Eichler, the WZO helpfully pointed out this detail of history. There are religious Israeli Jews, and there are secular Israeli Jews. There are Israeli racists and Israeli social justice activists, rabbis for Jewish supremacy and rabbis for human rights. There are Torah teachings of loving the stranger because you were strangers in Egypt, and Torah teachings of conquest, exclusion, and violence. What makes the difference is not what the text says, but who is reading it and how. Is this a manual for how to conquer a land? Is this a record of later generations wishing they had wiped out the peoples who had led them astray to worship other gods, a sin that caused their destruction when their God removed his protection? Is reading this passage tonight an admission that we have skeletons in our closet too, evil urges we must control and grow beyond? Yes, yes, and yes. It is very rare that I encourage anyone to be like Benjamin Netanyahu. But when it comes to believing in God is on your side versus understanding the situation rationally and taking prudent action, in this one case, be like Bibi. If I can ask you to rise as we return our Torah scroll to the Ark.